The power of solitude. Loneliness is inevitable at times in life, so we must master the skill of isolation so it does not drive us mad. I want to start this whole video off with a quote that I love about solitude by Jean-Paul Sartre, and it goes like this. If you are lonely when you are alone, you are in bad company. The reason I believe solitude is so hard is because when you are alone and the world seems to be still and quiet around you, you're inevitably going to think about your problems. We think about what has been avoided and what has been drowned out by the everyday ruckus and noise of life. But as that noise falls silent, those problems that were submerged will float to the top. I believe these problems are much worse off than when they originally sank, because as they just sit at the bottom of your conscious muck, they begin to decay and bloat, which, if not addressed with great intention and detail, they will explode in your face. The best way to defend against this is give your problems attention at the very beginning. Don't just ignore them. Set aside time, set aside hours for solitude, and give those problems a life raft before they even sink. Whether we want to admit it or not, when we are interacting with other people, we are constantly comparing ourselves. And this will allow us to downplay our problems because, we could think like, well, at least our problems aren't as bad as theirs. Every interaction you have and every story and experience you are told, you are comparing it and you are relating it with yourself. And all that's doing is just pouring more buckets of sludge on top of your problems and pushing them deeper and deeper. Solitude disrupts all of this. It opens up the floodgates. And luckily for us, through bouts and bouts of isolation, self-isolation, focused on introspection, we can begin to clean out that tank, the conscious. Solitude is a skill that can be worked on. It doesn't have to remain scary. We must understand that isolation and solitude, it doesn't mean rejection. It doesn't mean you're a loser. That's something that's taught to us that's just further perpetuated through social media. If you decide to spend your weekend indulging in intellectual pursuits and maybe not going out with people, this does not mean you're a loser or that you're kind of rejected from the world. That is just people's projections. Let's look at two thinkers who were huge proponents of solitude, being Friedrich Nietzsche and Henry Thoreau. In the book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche says, "Loneliness is one thing, solitude is another. Not everyone feels lonely when they are alone. That is a problem within, and that is a feeling. There are people that feel lonely in a crowded room, so we must not mistake solitude as synonymous with loneliness. They are very different." When Nietzsche was 34 years old, after 10 plus years working at the University of Basel, he resigned. Nietzsche then spent the next decade traveling all over Italy and France and spending a great deal of time in the Swiss Alps. And he was out there until his health declined, forcing him to move in with his sister. It was in the Swiss Alps that he got the inspiration for the book Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It was in those mountains where he spent a prolonged time in solitude. Moving on to Henry Thoreau. Henry Thoreau says, "I feel necessity of deepening the stream of my life. I must cultivate privacy. It is very dissipating to be with people too much." Henry Thoreau is a man who in 1845, at the age of 28 years old, decided to move a mile outside of his hometown of Concord, Massachusetts, and he built a one-room cabin for only $28. Thoreau spent the majority of his time out here alone. He would go days and even weeks without seeing people, although he did have visitors from time to time. Thoreau's greatest motivation to moving to this cabin was his desire to live deliberately. Thoreau ended up spending 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days in this cabin, and it was in this cabin where he got the inspiration to write the book Walden, which I am currently reading as we speak. Those are two of the world's greatest thinkers that we still indulge in their works today, and they were huge proponents of solitude. They believed to truly figure out and understand who you are, you must be free of all distractions of the modern world, and solitude is the only place you could find that. Learn to embrace solitude and being alone, because it forces you to do a mental cleansing, granting you peace. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. You guys know the drill. I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.